Welcome, Savannah.
Welcome to our show, Lee
Welcome
Camp.
to our show. It's so good to see you.
It's so good to see you, too.
How's the prep for the half marathon coming?
I did 7 miles on Saturday. Everything is going great except for blisters. I'm getting blisters on the inside of my feet. So I had to go get my feet scanned on Sunday by the shoe company.
Yes.
That will tell you basically what your problems are.
I see.
And it turns out that I have been wearing a half size too small.
Oh, well, there you go.
Crushing.
Well, I mean, it's great that you're learning that now rather than in the middle of a half marathon.
So true. So true.
I guess this is what you do training for, so that you can be prepared.
And on Saturday, they started bleeding towards the end. And I was like, I probably need to deal with this.
Yeah.
Before it gets really bad.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It was a very vulnerable thing. Sophie, one of our producers, was talking about how she wouldn't do this foot scan because it's so vulnerable. It is vulnerable to take out your blistery feet.
Yeah.
And be like, fix this. But shout out to Anya. She was amazing. And she helped my feet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Anya.
Are you training for anything at the moment? Spiritually?
No. No, I'm not.
Mini experiments?
I don't know if I've mentioned this already, but my wife Laura and I changed our morning routine so that we're getting out of bed early. And so we're clicking on it. I love it.
Does it feel good?
Feels great. Yeah.
And are you doing it every morning or do you have certain days?
Monday to Friday.
Nice.
Yep. So by 8 o'clock, I'm exercised, showered, dressed, and my work day is starting. So it's a psychological lift because then I'm not worrying the rest of the day, but when I'm going to get my exercise in.
Do you and Laura work out together?
We are now that we're doing this. Yeah.
How's that going?
I would say for the most part, good.
What makes it good?
It's something we've never done really together before, and so it's a new thing to try together.
It would be weird to work out with your spouse.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
Nice. Well, good for you for getting up so early.
So far, so good.
Lee, I was wondering if you are watching anything new, if you've been reading anything you want to tell people about at the start of the new year.
Well, I knew that you were going to ask that, so I thought about what I had been listening to.
Okay.
And I have re-engaged with Tom Waits. You know Tom Waits? No, really? Oh, well, you need to go learn Tom Waits. T-O-M-W. He sings like this. He's got a really gravelly voice.
What a distinct, yes.
Yeah.
Look.
And yes, very distinct look. And but he is one of the greatest American songwriters. And
what got you on this Tom Waits kick?
Well, I don't know. Well, years ago, the very first show we ever did at the Ryman Auditorium, I was all nervous, of course, because it's a famous storied stage.
Totally.
And so I was obsessing about what I was going to sing that night. And I only had one slot to sing something, and so I wanted to make it good. And so a friend of mine, a colleague, I think it was Donna King, music professor, had introduced me to Tom Waits, and she said, I think you'll like him. And I did like him a lot. And then somehow and maybe she originally pointed me to his song, Down There by the Train. And it is one of the greatest, most bold songs of grace and mercy, almost such that it is offensive. If you actually dig into the people that he sings about, it's like, oh my goodness.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, just one line, for example, that just popped in my head. So that he's playing off of the idea of the old train down there by the river. So he's playing off of baptism motifs, end of life motifs with the train by the river. And right in the middle of the song, he says, I saw Judas Iscariot carrying John Wilkes Booth down there by the train.
Wow.
And he comes around to the end talking about how I've never been a person who's loved, given, I've lived only for myself. And he says, but I suspect if you'll meet me down there by the train, then we too can be brought in to the beauty. And so it's just a great song. So anyway, I sang that my first time I got to sing on the stage of the Ryman Auditorium. And and I had kind of forgotten about the song. And so I was watching some TV series, and they played in the TV show a Tom Waits song, which I'd never heard that's entitled "Come On Up to the House," which is a song of inclusion and welcome, hospitality. And so I went and listened to that, and I thought I'm gonna go back and listen to more Tom Waits. So I've had "Come On Up to the House" and "Down There by the Train" on repeat here of late, and just lovely.
Was that on Runaway, the show you've been watching on Netflix?
It may have been, yes.
I don't know if you bounce around between shows, but
I don't
that's the
think
last
we
one
finished.
I heard you.
I think you so discouraged me about Runaway that I haven't finished it.
Or maybe I gave you permission.
Maybe you gave me permission
to know that it wasn't
Just to
good.
avoid- Yeah, now we're on to Tehran.
Did you know? Oh,
Yeah,
I don't know what that is.
it's a fascinating story about the Israelis and the Iranians, and spies, and it's
Netflix? Apple?
Apple. Yeah,
Yeah, that does feel like a very Apple TV title and everything like
it's
that.
good. Yeah.
Those lyrics are insane. Do you know that I'm on a Judas Iscariot kick?
No, I
So
didn't
it
know
feels
that.
very-
Really? That's bizarro. Well, to go listen to Tom Waits and
I know. I'm very hot after Judas at the moment. I'm like calling this my justice for Judas year. Because it occurred to me when I was reading through, I guess, whenever Judas betrayed Jesus, maybe like 3 or 4 months ago. And it was for money. And I just looked around and I was like, we're all doing this all the time. So we're judging this man for betraying Jesus for money. But who among us hasn't done that before? And yeah, I just feel like we're so hard on him. And then,
well, and even more so. I mean, there's some historical critical scholars who suggest that he's not merely betraying Jesus for money, but that he may have been trying to force Jesus' hand to bring about the kingdom of God in some apocalyptic way. And so that he thought that if he could betray him to the Romans, that would force Jesus' hand to
start the political
on with
revolution.
it. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
To become more zealous, basically.
Yeah, right.
That is, I've never heard that before. Yeah. I think, too, recognizing that Judas, this really is such a bunny trail, but Judas getting to the point of taking his own life. I think, too, just having so much compassion for the psychological reality of that, of recognizing what you've done in sitting in the weight of that. I don't know. I just feel like we're really harsh on him, and I don't have time for that this year.
Yeah, well, you'll like Tom Waits.
I'm going to like Tom Waits, I think.
That's right. It also reminds me, I mean, I've been to Israel, Palestine twice. Mm-hmm. And both times I was there, one of my very favorite places is on the north shore of the Sea of Galilee there at Capernaum, where it's the Church of the Primacy of St. Peter, which is where the tradition has it that Jesus came out and saw them fishing and calls them in and fixes them breakfast and says, Peter, do you love me?
Do you love me? Mm-hmm.
And do you love me 3 times? And that's one of my favorite places there. Is just this beautiful little church and remembering that story.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
Isn't there some lore around that, aka scholarship around that? Not lore. I'm using very Gen Z language. With the asking Peter 3 times, do you love me, kind of giving Peter the opportunity to make up for the betrayal that he did 3 times. Have you ever heard of that before?
Yeah.
I kind of love that interpretation. Even if it wasn't necessarily intentional, it's kind of beautiful.
Yeah.
Like you're always going to keep getting second chances.
Right. Yeah. Yes. Which, I had never heard of this until 2025, that Paul Bunyan has a, I forget what it's called. We can put it in the show notes. But he has this place of where it's this beautiful litany almost, where I said unto you, I have never loved you as you have loved me. And Christ replied, I will in no wise cast you out. And yet I have been unfaithful and unkind. And Christ replied, and I will in no wise cast you out. And it goes on and on and on and on with Christ replying, and I will in no wise cast you out. And so another kind of beautiful artistic specimen I came across this year that is lovely in that regard.
When Paul Bunyan was around, did the word bunion mean what it means to us today?
Why did you ruin this good conversation we had with that adolescent humor?
What era was he in?
We had something going on there. And then the adolescent humor.
I had to. And I'm being for real.
You didn't have
I'm
to.
I'm being for real. When was Paul Bunyan around? Do you know?
I think he was around in the 1600s, but you'll have to fact check me.
Did Bunyan mean Bunyan in the 1600s?
Well, first of all, it was spelled differently. Bunyan is his name.
Dang it. It was.
And Bunyan is Bunion.
And it says that Bunyan... Oh, the spelling varied. Bunnian, which is cute. I like that better than the Y.
Bunyan.
Since we're here, let's just get into it. And a nickname for someone with a swelling? What does that mean?
I couldn't help you.
But it probably doesn't have anything to do with foot bunions, so that's
not.
good to know. On that note, let's start the show. Welcome to the Subtext, where we go beneath the headlines and beyond the obvious. I'm Savannah Locke.
I'm Lee C. Camp.
If you like what we're doing, from the depths of beauty to the historical research of bunions, and you want to help us get the show in front of more people, please do us a favor by following and rating it wherever you listen. Leave a review, give us 5 stars, hype us up. And if you want to watch full episodes, you can find that on YouTube and Spotify. And you can follow the show at The Subtext Show, me at Savannah_Locke, and Lee at Lee C. Camp. And if you have any questions or suggestions for the show, just DM us on Instagram at The Subtext Show. Okay, Lee Camp. This is all going to come from the Golden Globes. That is what today's episode was. The launching pad was at the Golden Globes when I was there.
Yeah. Now remind me, Golden Globes are for TV, movies, what?
Actually, all of them, I think.
All of them, okay.
And Mark Ruffalo was at the Golden Globes, and he was interviewed, and there was this interview that he did with someone on the red carpet that went viral.
I do like Mark Ruffalo.
I do too.
Yeah. But anyway, what did he do?
Basically, this interviewer was talking to him and was like, "How are you doing tonight?" And Mark Ruffalo basically said, "I'm happy to be here, and I'm struggling with all of the stuff that's happening in the world right now, and it feels duplicitous to be here, and I'm feeling tension around that." And then he threw in at the end, "And I'm feeling sick. And that makes it harder to fake it." And so basically he got more political than maybe other people would have gotten when they were on the red carpet. And when this interview went viral, I started reading through the comments, as I do. And several people were like, "Okay, thank you so much, Mark, for naming this, that there's like a lot of tension in America right now." And it is weird that all of these celebrities are dressed to the nines getting awards for their different things. And they like celebrated the fact that he used his moment to like be an activist for something that matters for him. Other people...
Hang on, may I interrupt you just a moment?
Yes.
I'm confused why that would be called activist.
He spoke to the things that are happening with ICE in Minnesota right now.
Okay.
And so for him, he just basically said that he was concerned about the way that things were being handled. And a lot of people in the comments were very celebratory of that. But then a lot of people in the comments said, "Mark Ruffalo, you're an actor and you need to stay in your lane." Mm-hmm. And as soon as I read that, "You need to stay in your lane," I thought, this is a Subtext
You knew
episode.
we had an episode.
And I said, "Thank you, Mark Ruffalo, for doing my job for me."
Do you know that old Johnny Cash song, the one on the right? I'm teaching you so many great songs today. So Johnny, you do know Johnny Cash.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. Yes, I'm in.
He's got this old funny song. Actually, you can find video footage of it where he's at the Ryman on the very same stage.
That you performed.
Yes, that's right. Mm-hmm. And because he taped a television show there from 1969 to 70 to 71 maybe.
Nice.
But anyway, it's an old song, funny song about the one on the right was on the left and the one on the left was in the middle. And it's about this folk singing group that got in a huge fight on stage because of their political differences. And then at the end of the song, he ties it up with a moral to the story of saying, "So what you best learn to do is sing your songs and keep your politics out of your songs." But what's so ironic about that is that he was one of the greatest of political activists of his day. And so I've always thought, what's he do? How's he thinking about singing that song when is he just doing that tongue in cheek? Because he clearly was very political and very much an activist. So I don't know. I thought about that song when you tell me that story.
Such a great example. What kind of stuff did Johnny Cash get into that he was an activist for?
Well, I mean, he had a lot to say about war and the poor. I mean, those two areas he talked about, I think, a lot.
Yeah.
And the imprisoned, of course.
I didn't know that, of course.
Well, I mean, apparently it was quite a hullabaloo for him to record the Folsom Prison album. You know about the Folsom Prison album?
I do know about that record, yes.
At least in the telling of the biopic of his life, they depicted as there were a lot of people saying, you can't do this, you're going to upset your base by going and recording this album in a prison. And he's basically saying, well, isn't this what the gospel's about, is to go be in prisons? And so, so that was another example where he was always pushing back against people who had some sort of moralistic vision of Christianity. And he was like, no, it's about the poor, it's about the imprisoned, it's about violence and so forth.
I don't think I knew all of that about him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a great thing to be thinking about. And I've been thinking about it since this happened, of should celebrities, and by celebrities I mean too artists and like famous CEOs or people who are influencers, should they stay in their lane? What does that mean? Why do audiences feel entitled to tell them where they need to stay? And also recognizing virtue signaling, and is that real? And what might that look like? So I just kind of wanted to open up the conversation, see if you had opinions.
Well, you know I have opinions.
I'd love to hear them.
Yeah. What's your opinion about it? You say first.
I go back and forth. So I will say I'm giving myself permission to disagree with myself even by the end of the episode.
Good.
When I saw someone say, you're an actor, stay in your lane, my initial instinct was to say, why do we feel like we have the right to crystallize people into only being able to do one thing? So it's like, you're here to sing. That's all you're allowed to do. And so I think I'm an Enneagram 4. So the individualist piece in me is like, no, you can't tell them not to use their voice because that's not fair. But I also think I do see the validity of, I've had a lot of conversations preparing for this episode where the people who are like, stay in your lane, are saying that because they're like, Mark Ruffalo, you are never going to know what it's like to have to suffer the consequences of these actions. So it feels empty to say that you're all torn up when you're sitting there in a nice tux surrounded by other millionaires and you're going to get your award. So I do think I understand people's frustration or why it would feel empty for someone to say something like that.
Yeah. I think there's one thing that I think I'd want to go back to first and say that there seems to be a fundamental irony or area of ignorance, and I don't mean ignorance in a pejorative way, but just in a people overlooking things, something here. And that would be that years ago, I don't know, 15 years ago or so, 10 years ago, I don't remember, I somehow stumbled across this thing where I went up to New York City and spent 3 or 4 days at this conference on Times Square with a Hollywood film scriptwriter who was doing like a workshop for people. And his big thing was that every story is a moral story. Every story is about moral formation and about character. And so when you remember that, it's like Mark Ruffalo, I mean, you know, I don't know all Mark Ruffalo stuff, but I watched something that he was in, some series he was in just recently. And that whole series had a message to it. And, you know, it was making some strong claims. And any story, every story, Star Wars, you know, they're all, Star Wars to whatever, you know, they're all doing something about moral formation, moral courage, moral development. And so you can't tell an actor, it doesn't make any sense to me to tell an actor you can't make claims about good, bad, right, wrong, because they're doing it all the time in the very practice of film writing and film playing and of their work. Yeah. I don't know. Thoughts about that?
Such an interesting point. I love that because what you're saying is for people who are saying you're an actor, stay in your lane, What you're pushing back on is you have a malinformed view of what it means to be an actor then.
Exactly. Right. Yep. They're already doing that kind of stuff all the time. So why are you upset with them about doing this?
Which got me thinking about, are they really upset about Mark Ruffalo saying something? Or are they upset about what Mark Ruffalo is saying?
That, of course, is open for any kind of debate and so forth. But why not just say, I very much disagree with what you said, and get on with a constructive conversation rather than this ill-informed view of what actors are doing.
Do you think that they're...
I'm also going to maintain to argue against myself in a moment.
Same. I mean, literally, I'm already arguing against both of us. Do you think that there's any validity, or do you see why people are like, you're insulated from this reality, so don't even mention or talk about it because it doesn't feel like you actually have any skin in the game?
Sure. And yet, I think that's all going to depend upon a case-by-case kind of case-by-case situation. I don't know enough about Mark Ruffalo or anybody else to know what kind of stakes they might have at play in saying something like that or speaking up about something like that. But I don't think that, for me, the issue is not one of you can't talk about moral issues. You can't talk about good and bad, right and wrong, because, as I already said, they're already doing it in their work. The question in my mind instead is simply one of prudence. And, unsurprisingly. But, so prudence is always asking what's the best way to do the right thing. And so that means that you're always having to ask yourself the question, is now the best time? If now is the best time, how to say it? For what end? Are you taking into account possible consequences? So forth and so on. Like Aquinas has something like 8 different aspects of prudence that you should always be asking yourself before you think about whether or not you're doing the right thing in the best way. Mm-hmm. And so it's a very complicated skill, but it's a crucial skill. And so I think that in my mind, applies to saying something on the red carpet. And I think it also applies to what kind of movies you make and the way an Instagram person can comment about somebody else. Everybody gets caught up in being required to practice prudence. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, this Catholic moral philosopher I like, whose name I'll think of in a minute, has a book called The Four Cardinal Virtues. And he says there is no virtue apart from prudence. Mm. So everybody has to take into account prudence. Otherwise, you can subvert what you're trying to do and poison it rather than it being a truly good thing, helpful thing.
What it makes me think of is what makes people on socials then feel entitled to have an opinion about ICE or Minnesota or whatever that they would not allow for Mark Ruffalo to have. So then that's where my mind went to. So it's like yes to the prudence piece. And I think that definition of prudence is brilliant, by the way. Like, did you come up with that? How to do the best thing in the right way or whatever?
No, I think I stole that particular definition from Paul Waddell.
I love it. That's amazing. And I think that is a great overall human pathway for us deciding how we are able to be activists or speak out about things that matter to us, 1,000%. And I think what it got me thinking through is why do those people on socials feel that they are entitled to have opinions about something when Mark Ruffalo isn't? Yeah. That's the direction my head just went into. Yeah. And I wonder if for them it's just a money piece.
That because he has money.
Like a class thing.
Ticks him off.
Yes.
Yeah, because, yeah.
Do you think that could have something to do with it?
Certainly possible. But I do think that another thing that occurs to me in all this is that I think back to the book of James where he says that those who teach will be judged with greater strictness. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And he uses the metaphor of the bridle in the horse's mouth and the rudder on the ship. Mm-hmm. So the idea there being that this small thing, the tongue of a teacher, has a disproportionately large impact upon the community, as the rudder does to the ship, as the bridle does to the horse, right? So a small thing, disproportionately large impact upon the community. And so therefore, you will be judged with greater strictness because you're a teacher. And I think that's something worth always considering, that if you have some sort of voice in some sort of public space, you are, in effect, some form of teacher.
Yeah.
And so you should always be mindful of, okay, whether you're entitled to say it or not, the question becomes, just know you are going to get judged with greater strictness because precisely the power differential and the power dynamic.
Yes.
So I think that's terribly important.
And in this case, that would be, like, Mark does have a larger voice. And other celebrities, by the way, they didn't speak out in the same way that Mark did, but some people were wearing pens to show their support for various, like, protesters or whatever in Minnesota. So he was not the only one, but he was the only one that I saw, at least, that had an interview that, like, went viral. And those people do have a lot of influence. And so for them to speak out, I could see the positives, but then I think I do understand why people are like, shut up. Like, this is what this is also making me think of. Okay. A couple of years ago, a friend of mine was like, hey, have you seen on the side of our oat milk carton I don't remember what the oat milk company was, but on the side of the oat milk carton, they're like making all of these stands. Like, we believe in this and like these people belong in X, Y, and Z, right? So it's like just making a big stand on like oat milk. And she said, I wish that we were back in a time where everyone didn't have to make a stand about everything. And so I think that's also coming into my mind as we have this conversation.
Right.
There is a huge pressure to have an opinion, to have an opinion fast, to share it quickly so that you're not seen as being silent or compliant, and to make it the right opinion. And so I think there's also a piece for me that I'm thinking through of what is the prudent thing sometimes to like lay back, not say anything, maybe publicly, and instead like donate to certain causes or whatever. Do you know what I don't know. Just to complicate the waters.
Yeah. That's
let's add more mud in there.
Very, very important set of considerations. Yeah, I mean, you may or may not know me well enough yet to know that I can be very stubborn.
Okay.
And I get very stubborn when people start telling me what I ought to do in situations like that.
Nice.
And I kind of think it doesn't. I don't know that it hardly ever matters what somebody says on social media. Mm-hmm. Are you really going to change anything in the world? I'm not so sure that you will. There may be a few cases here and there that somebody has changed something. As a matter of fact, I'm sure that there have been cases where people have changed some things in the world in constructive ways and in very bad ways, because you can use social media for some real good. But I don't think that me saying something on social media is going to change a whole lot in the world.
Right.
At any given moment. Mm-hmm. Again, the situation could arise, but generally speaking, I don't think so.
Right.
So don't go telling me what I should say on social media.
Yes.
Just leave me alone.
Yes.
Right. And generally, that's not where I find it helpful to talk about challenging stuff and hard stuff.
Right.
Because it's not a space for deliberation. And moral formation, I think, requires long, extended deliberation.
Yeah, where do you think that people are changing their minds the most or being shaped the most then, if it's not on these sound bites?
I mean, generally speaking, I think it happens in stories. And that stories are the most powerful thing to change people's lives and sets of convictions. And again, that stories can happen on social media and in lots of different kind of media formats. But, I don't know that tweets do much moral formation, or a short social Facebook post or whatever, or Instagram post. So that, I don't know. I could be completely wrong, though. Tell me what you think.
I don't think you're wrong. I think you are generally right. Have I ever told you about how Todd and I changed our mind about guns?
No.
Okay. So Todd grew up in the country and grew up with guns.
Yeah, me too.
Was always shooting things.
Yeah,
and,
me too.
Yeah, not people, but like pumpkins or whatever. And when we got married, he brought in like 3 guns to our marriage. And this was in 2016. I don't think I really thought twice about it. And
That's a very funny way you put that.
What? Tell me.
He brought 3 guns into our marriage.
Sincerely, they were in our like side table. He and his dad taught me how to shoot pumpkins and said, you know, if someone comes in the house, this is what you do. And I was like, okay. Like I wasn't thought through, right? And I started reading in 2016, 2017. It was the first time I had started reading different religious writers outside of my typical tradition. And some of those people were like Sarah Bessey or like Rachel Held Evans and different theologians who told stories that challenged my view on guns and on violence. And so when I'm thinking about like the way that social media changed me in terms of like reading their blogs at that point, in like 2017 or 2018, it was like 2 years after we were married, I came home one day and I was like, I'm not going to shoot anyone if they come into the house. And I told Todd, like, you can keep the guns. It's not my job to change you, but I'm just letting you know if they come in, I'm not going to shoot anything. And he was like, will you at least shoot a wall, like to scare them? I was like, okay, I'll shoot a wall. So then another year goes by. I'm still reading stuff. And this is not long form reading, by the way, like literally not books. This is stuff on social media. Yeah. This is blogs.
But you're not reading tweets about this.
No, God, I've never been on Twitter. Yeah. No, I don't have the skin for Twitter. So I get home one day and I'm like, I'm not even going to shoot a wall. I was like, I'm so sorry. I was like, I don't want a gun. I was like, I don't even want one in my bedside table. And so I was like, you keep all of them on your side of the table. You do what you need to. I'm not going to be involved. And I basically just decided in and of myself, I explained to him why I don't think that I was ever going to shoot anyone. I refer to I send these blogs to him, and then he goes on his little journey. And lo and behold, a couple years later, we give our guns back to Todd's dad. And neither of us have them anymore. And when I think about who influenced us the most, it was stuff on socials. Yeah. But to your point, it was not the little soundbite inflammatory tweets, but it was shorter form things on socials that made us change our mind about guns. Starting with me and then ultimately leading to Todd. To make room for some of that. But yeah, I hear what you're saying 1,000,000%. And I think a lot of the times it just bolsters our self-righteousness when we do our little tweets that are little zingers that are amazing. That doesn't do any good. But I do think, to your point, that like the story piece and when that can be infiltrated, it can make a big difference.
I very much agree. Yep, for sure.
I've only ever shot a pumpkin. That's the only thing I've ever done with the gun.
Well, I grew up around guns, and we hunted mostly just dove hunting when I was growing up. And I still have the 12 gauge that my father gave me. It's a beautiful French-made 12 gauge that's up in my attic. And but that was one of the things that we would do for sport in Alabama. Is you just go shooting stuff, and cans and pumpkins and whatever. As a matter of fact, the first time I brought my wife, who was going to become my wife, my girlfriend at the time, home to Alabama, we took her back behind the house, and it was very mean, but it was kind of country, rural, funny, So we loaded up the 12 gauge and put 3 shells in it, semi-automatic, and we set up a can and said, okay, just pull, put this thing up here and aim that way and look down the barrel and on the bead, put the bead on the can and pull the trigger. And I didn't tell her it was going to kick.
Oh gosh, that hurts.
And so she pulled it, and it kicked so hard that she swung around, still had her finger on the trigger, and swung around with that gun pointing right at me. And so I just hit the ground.
I bet you did. I bet you did.
And I learned my lesson. And but anyway, that's one of the funny stories of our courtship is her shooting the 12 gauge.
Oh, almost at you. Yeah, Todd's stories are so different too because I was born in Boston. It's just not as big a part of the culture there. But Todd was just saying a story the other night. His uncle left his dad a voicemail at like 9:30 at night, and they saved it for like decades because it was so funny. The only voicemail was, "Douglas, call me. I've been shot." And that hung up. And the uncle was typing on his computer in like maybe the mid 2000s, and someone was hunting out in a field and missed, and it went through the house and shot him in the foot. Oh, wow. And so he got shot in his own house, and with the foot called Todd's dad and said, "Douglas, call me, I've been shot." So we always quote that.
Yes, goodness.
He's fine.
My uncle was shot as well.
What was he shot with?
With a shotgun. He almost died.
Yeah, oh my gosh.
When he was very young.
So very serious.
So yeah, like high school age or whatever. Yeah.
Was it like with like a...
He was hunting rabbits with a friend, and the rabbit jumped up or something, and so he shot and it hit my uncle.
Oh my gosh.
But he died. But that uncle was run over by a truck and shot, and something else that almost killed him, and then broke his leg in a football game playing with my dad, and on the other side he was just all...
He's a survivor.
He's a survivor.
He's a survivor.
He's 90. He's in his 90s now and still kicking.
I love it.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, people like that don't go.
No.
They've got a fortitude. But
all right, so what else on this episode?
Oh my God, I'm screaming, by the way that we went down so many bunny trails. But yes, the social media piece, it doesn't make a difference, but it can in certain forms. That's what I wanted to make room for. Okay, so let's talk about some criticisms of Mark Ruffalo / Ariana Grande. So there's this conservative influencer called Allie Beth Stuckey, and
I think you've talked about Allie Beth before. We've talked about Allie Beth before.
I know. I don't know why she comes up on my socials.
We'll see if Allie Beth is going to come after you. Talking about her.
Hopefully not. I don't have the skin for it. But she basically chastised Ariana Grande and Mark Ruffalo for virtue signaling their support for these folks. They were vocalizing their support for protesters in Minnesota with all this ICE stuff going on. And Allie Beth critiqued it and said it was virtue signaling because they live in gated communities. So Ariana and Mark Ruffalo both live in gated communities with borders, is what she says. And that the Golden Globes had borders. Because at the Golden Globes, there are like little hedges, like greenery hedges. Isn't that what they're called?
I don't know.
Hedges. I think it's hedges. I'm saying it out loud to see if it will make more sense. But basically, like just like green plants that
those are hedges.
Stop people from coming in.
Okay, yeah.
Yes. And so she was basically like, you're being hypocritical because you have thrived on being in enclosed communities for your whole life. And now you're basically vocalizing support for people who don't want to have those borders.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
I think that's a little silly.
Okay.
One of the things you learn when you think about language and study metaphor, of course, is that a metaphor works because of a point of comparison. And thus there are multiple options on what you could be drawing the comparison between on any given metaphor. So, yeah, I mean, there are the comparison that she's drawing is between the border of the United States of America and the borders at the Golden Globes. Agents who are keeping people from coming into the country or rounding up people who have come into the country illegally and deporting them versus security at the Golden Globes. So, okay, there's some point. You can see a point of comparison, but that's clearly not what Mark Ruffalo was talking about, right? What Mark Ruffalo is talking about is, do we? Because I don't know what he thinks about that stuff, but he could be somebody who thinks, of course we need immigration reform.
Right.
Of course we need police.
Right.
Of course we need security.
Right.
Of course we need all of that. But that's not what he's talking about.
Right.
What he's asking the question about, and what a lot of us are asking the question about, is do you want people doing that who are using disproportionate force, who are apparently taking people off the streets without warrants, demanding to see identification papers when that's not what we do. You're constitutionally right not to show your papers unless you're driving.
Right.
And all of the sorts of overwhelming force that's occurring. And so that's a very different kind of thing. And so I think, I knew that you were going to ask about this, so I looked at her little Instagram thing, and I thought she's getting a lot of support because it was a gotcha moment. Oh, I got you, right? But no, she didn't get him,
right?
Because she's drawing a comparison because that's not what he's talking about.
Right.
He's talking about other things that she didn't have the maybe courage or willingness to talk about.
It lacks nuance, and it feels like an apologetic take.
Yeah.
Do you know what I'm saying by that?
It lacks fairness to what he's really talking about.
Yes. 1,000%.
Yeah.
And it feels like the fruit of the apologetics piece sometimes on social media where people are celebrated for those gotcha moments, and it excuses us from the responsibility to think critically about very serious issues.
Right. Yeah.
So we go on and we see the, Allie Beth, but this is happening all over. It's not just Allie Beth, it's just for this example of these gotcha moments.
Yeah.
Where you're like, this, and you feel so good inside of you because you're like, I'm on the right team. But it actually excuses us from being formed into better human beings and into more just human beings and more loving human beings and hopefully more Christ-like human beings because we don't actually have to do the work because we get the dopamine hit from the...
Yeah, from the like.
From the light.
Yeah, yeah. Now, the whole idea of virtue signaling is a very interesting idea.
I know. And, I've been thinking about it.
I mean, so I think she defined virtue signaling in that little video clip. I'm saying I think her definition was it's superficial virtue.
Yes.
Which, that seems helpful enough definition of virtue signaling. Though I would say it's more than just superficial virtue. It's virtue. You're putting on or pointing to some sort of thing that's thought to be virtuous in yourself so that you can show that you're on the right side.
Yes.
That's what's going on with virtue.
Yes.
What I think typically we mean by virtue signaling. And typically, in my experience at least, to label someone as virtue signaling or to label someone as all concerned with political correctness is typically something that's done by people on the right against people on the left. But you don't have to look very long to realize people on the left, and I've been on the butt end of people, doing that kind of picking at me because I didn't say something quite right and got walloped by people on the left. So they, I've seen plenty of examples of that kind of stuff on the left, but people on the right do it just as much.
Yeah.
And if anything, right now in the United States, I would say that in my professional contexts, my multiple professional contexts, I've had a whole lot more experience with the impact of political correctness and virtue signaling from the right than I ever had from people on the left. And so, yeah, that's something that's worth pointing to and having conversations about. And that's also one of the things that I love about virtue traditions is that typically a conversation about practicing a virtue makes you ask questions not just about the right thing and not just about the best way to do the right thing, but it asks questions about intention and motivation and whether you're doing it with grace and magnanimity or with kind of gritting your teeth, all of these considerations. So it's important to be asking ourselves, okay, if I'm going to speak up about something, what kind of integrity does that call me to?
Yep.
To try to say something about this.
Yes.
And maybe my integrity, if I'm going to speak up about something that I know I'm not really good at, maybe I should preface it by saying, I'm not really good at this, but however, it seems to me that blah, 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 whatever the case may be.
Yes. I love that. Yeah, taking into account intention is a really important thing, I think. Okay, and then one more angle I did want to talk about is this idea of double standards, because what I have found is that a lot of people who will criticize certain celebrities for speaking out are extremely grateful when other celebrities speak out about different subjects. So an example that I've been thinking about is, have you followed the Nicki Minaj stuff at all?
Nicki who?
No. Do you really not know Nicki Minaj?
Minaj?
Yeah.
No, I don't know Nicki Minaj. Minaj?
Yes.
Okay, no, I don't know Nicki.
I'll play you some songs later.
Okay.
Nicki's like a massive, huge artist and has been for many years.
What genre? You had to lay that in there.
What do you mean?
And has been for many years.
Well, she's like a rapper, singer, songwriter. You've definitely heard some of her songs before. Yeah.
Well, let's just note that when we've discovered that you haven't the foggiest idea who Tom Waits was.
So true.
It was not treated with laughing mockery.
Honestly, that is so true.
Yeah.
I think just because my person's alive, you know, is your person dead?
No, he's not dead. I'll tell you what it is. It's ageism.
Is it age? I knew you were going to say ageism.
It's ageism.
He's 76.
And I'm not even old enough to be talking about it, which is another reason it's so disgusting.
Okay. Amazing. Sorry about that. To you, to Tom Waits, to all the people. Johnny Cash is dead.
Yes.
Right? Okay, yes. Okay. Anyways, Nicki Minaj. This year, though, Nicki spoke up about the persecution of Christians in, where was it? It was somewhere in Africa. In Nigeria, maybe?
There's been a good bit of persecution of Christians across North Africa.
In North Africa, yes. Yeah. So she speaks up about that. And then all of a sudden, all of these very conservative people who before could not with Nicki Minaj, like had no time for her stuff, are just posting her stuff everywhere. She spoke at a Turning Point conference with Erica Kirk, and they had this whole session together talking about the persecution of Christians. Trump talks about her, and it's like all of a sudden, like it's like Nicki Minaj's queen, right? And I think that what I realized through that is that the double standards that we have, that goes both ways, of people who want people to keep their mouths shut until they're saying the thing that we want them to say, and then we'll parade them around at our conferences, on our book tours, and all of that. What do you think about that?
Well, I mean...
Having never met or heard of Nicki.
I mean, we always like it when someone with a bullhorn says what we think is true.
Totally.
Yeah. So it's just, I mean, it's not surprising, I don't think, that would be the case.
And I think that it also is like a good reminder for all of us when we do get frustrated with certain like celebrities or politicians for saying things that, you know, we might not like, that we would like them if they were saying the things we did like.
But at the same time, I think that in my mind, if people don't like something somebody's saying, and as long as they respond in some sort of way that shows respect for the basic humanity of another person, then I'm all fine with them expressing their disagreement.
1,000,000%.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's the best possible version of
things.
But
just engage the argument. Engage the issue. Don't make it about something that it's not about. That they're an actor. That they're an artist. Just say, no, I disagree with that.
That's actually such a good takeaway, and that needs to be the closing. Because that's the vibe. Yes. Yeah. Instead of saying you have to be this or you have to be that, like you're allowed to have an opinion and I'm allowed to disagree with it.
That's right. Yeah.
Without telling you who you can or what you can't say.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wow, great closing, Lee.
Great closing.
Let's go listen
Great
to some
conversation,
Nicki.
Savannah.
Let's go listen to some Nicki.